If you're new to the podcast community and you want to start a new podcast and you're looking for a platform that is user friendly, that has everything you need at your fingertips, that won't set any limits, that you can earn money, then I would recommend Anchor. Now, Anchor can be used basically anywhere. You could be in your car, you can be laying on the sofa in bed where you can edit, record, and upload. You can throw in soundtracks. Everything is there for you. Now, I use it because, it's user friendly and it is free, and I find it really easy to navigate without it being very confusing. Now, most platforms, before you can even try it out, you need to sign up and pick a plan. I like Anchor because I don't have to go through any of that. So I recommend it. Now, if you really want to get into it, I recommend you going to your website, anchor.fm, and, signing up. Or you can download anchor.fm from the Google Store, iTunes, and give it a try. So don't forget to go to anchor.fm, sign up, and I'll see you all in the podcast community. Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode on Miss Hyde's Paranormal. We will be discussing the most haunted house in Ireland, and so let's all grab a chair, hold hands, and let's begin our seance. So, driving along the isolated road that runs down the scenic Cook Peninsula in Ireland's ancient east, it is easy to spot the mansion that has earned itself the reputation of the most haunted house in Ireland. If ever a building fit the stereotype of a home haunted by its bloody and tragic past, this is it. Set against the backdrop of a rugged and windswept coastal settling, Loftus Hall looms over the surrounding landscape. Its historical walls have seen invasion, capture, plague, famine, and numerous of personal tragedies, many of which live on as ghostly legends. Now the famous house is up for sale. To the right buyer. Alright, so the Irish Examiner reports that the asking price is £2.5 million, or $2,878,837. That happens to be 4 times the price of the current owners paid 9 years ago for the place. Okay. Now, Aidan and Shane Quigley have put a new roof on the building. They made several significant structural repairs to the hall since then. Even if someone matches the current price tag, Aidan Quigley says he's not just going to sell the house to anyone. I'll be interviewing potential buyers. If a state body comes in, that's an option. If an American owner wants to live there, I'd be keen to work with them to restore it. Now, the Quigleys may be the current owners, but the record history of Loftus Hall and the land upon which it sits stretches back some 800 years. Locals say the significance of the site goes back even more, thousands of years, and was once sacred to the Druids, the high-ranking professionals and religious class in the ancient Celtic cultures. This place, it has pictures, so it's some really interesting pictures. I'll put it up on the social media so you guys can take a look at them. Now, let's talk about the colorful past. Now, the story begins around 1170 AD when Raymond, or Redmond, Fitzgerald, nicknamed Le Gros, the Fat, landed in Hook Peninsula in what is now Wexford in Ireland. It is a famous site in the Irish history because that's where Ireland was won and Ireland was lost. Now, Raymond was among the first of the small band of Norman knights who played an active role in helping enforce Norman rule over Ireland. Now, he acquired the land in the area upon which he built a castle known as Houseland Castle. Now, over the years, it fell into disrepair, and in 1350, descendants of Raymond Le Gros built a new castle called the Hall, or Redmond Hall. Now, the hall remained in the Redmond family until the mid-1600s, when the Irish Confederate Wars saw the castle repeatedly attacked and eventually seized as part of the Cromwellian confiscations. Now, in one remarkable display of defense, on July 20th, 1642, Alexander Redmond, who was 68 at that time, managed to protect the hall from around 90 English invaders with just the help of his 2 sons, some tenants, 2 soldiers, and a tailor. So, due to 68, and from 90 invaders of the English, he protected the hall. It's fucking crazy. They staved off several more attacks, after which Alexander Redmond received favorable terms from Cromwell. Upon his death in 1651, Redmond's family were evicted from the hall and their home put up for auction. Now, in 1666, Henry Loftus, originally from Yorkshire, England, acquired the confiscated lands, and the mansion was renamed to Loftus Hall. Now, over the decades and centuries that followed, the Loftus family rose in the peerage, producing barons, viscounts, earls, and marquises. And as they climbed the ladder of aristocracy, the illustrious family hoped that they could entice Queen Victoria to visit. With the goal in mind, John Henry Loftus, the 4th Marquess of Ely, embarked on an enormous renovation of the hall between 1870 and 1879 to make it grander than even before. Although it was widely reported that Loftus Hall was completely demolished and rebuilt, there is evidence that much of the former hall was utilized and worked into the mansion that you see today. No expense was spared in the renovation. Erected was a 3-story mansion with the balustrade parapet. Hall boasts an ornate mosaic floor and a spectacular grand staircase, hand-carved by Italian craftsmen. The house was certainly fit for a queen, but Queen Victoria never arrived, causing deep disappointment with the family. I mean, this place is enormous. It'd be a nice wedding place. Insanity, death, and tragedy plagued the historic hall. While its rich and colorful past is enough to bring history buffs flocking, it is its legends, the unexplained mysteries, and the tales of the ghostly apparitions that made the hall one of the most visited mansions in the whole Ireland. The legends stem from the real-life death of Anne Tottenham. In the mid-1600s, Charles Stoneham married Honorable Anne Loftus, daughter of the first Viscount Loftus, and they had 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls, Elizabeth and Anne. But his wife became ill and died when the girls were still young. 2 years later, Stoneham married his cousin Jane Cliff, and they lived together along with Anne in Loftus Hall. One night, amid a powerful storm, a ship arrived at the Hook Peninsula, and a young man made his way to Loftus Hall, asking if he could take shelter there. It wasn't uncommon for strangers to come knocking, as the rough waters around the south of Wexford coast often resulted in ships being grounded on the shore or shattered by rocks. During this time, Anne, now a young woman, fell in love with the stranger and spent countless hours socializing with him in the tapestry room. Now, according to legends, one evening Anne was playing cards with the stranger, as well as other guests, when she leaned down the table to collect a card she had dropped. She noticed the stranger had cloven hoofs. She screamed so loud, causing the stranger to expose himself as the devil. He transformed into a ball of fire and shot up to the roof, leaving Anne in a state of trauma from which she never recovered. Anne's mental health deteriorated rapidly, and her family, embarrassed by her behavior, confined her to a room in the house. She remained there until her death in 1775. It was said that from this time onwards, Loftus Hall became plagued by severe poltergeist activities, the troubled Anne never able to rest in peace. Now, several Protestant clergymen were summoned by the family to put a stop to it, but none could get rid of the house of its evil forces. In their desperation, the family, themselves Protestant, called upon a Catholic priest, who was a tenant on their estate, Father Thomas Broaders, who was successful in cleaning the house of negative forces. It is popularly reported that his gravestone contains the inscription, "Here lies the body of Thomas Broaders, who did good and prayed for all, and who banished the devil from Loftus Hall." There is no evidence in the inscription ever existed. Some of these pictures are very trippy. The unraveling the legend. Now, it is fair to say that many of the details of this account are likely to be a little bit more of fictional folk tales. Nevertheless, reports are going back over a century say that Anne was indeed confined to a room until her death. So, the question is, what really happened to her? Now, it's most likely that the account of the cloven hoof and the devil shooting through the roof was made by the Loftus family to deter beggars and other strangers from paying a visit to the hall. Now, after all, they were desperately hoping to entice Queen Victoria to visit. So the last thing that they needed was undesirables, I'm using air quotes, getting in the way. Well, with that raises the question as to whether Anne really was confined due to mental illness, or was there another reason for the tragic ending of her life? According to the alternative account, the stranger had fallen in love with Anne and had asked Charles Stoneham for her hand in marriage, but he refused permission. He was turned away from the house, leaving Anne heartbroken. Now there's another twist. During the restoration of Loftus House, the skeletal remains of a tiny infant were found between the walls that was believed to have been the room of Anne had been locked in. Did Anne fall pregnant when with the stranger, casting shame upon the family? This could have proved a motive for the father to lock her away and never to be seen again. Now, one local account suggests that Anne died during childbirth after her father refused to let anyone know of her pregnancy, including the local doctor, so she suffered complications leading to death. Today, Anton's grave is located in the local graveyard in Wexford, but something is very peculiar about it. Unlike the surrounding graves, it's completely cemented over. The people that buried her clearly wanted to ensure that no one could access her body. What dark secrets did Anne take to her grave? Metaphorically speaking, Loftus House is indeed haunted by its dark and troubled history. One can almost feel the sadness and traumas that have taken the place within the walls. But does the ghost of Anne still roam the cold, empty rooms of the mansion as it stands today? Many are convinced the answer is yes. Indeed, American ghost hunters carried over details investigations over the house and claimed they had detected numerous anomalies. But it wasn't until 2014 that Loftus Hall cemented its reputation as the most haunted house in Ireland when a visitor taking a tour believed he captured a haunting image in his camera. Now, this image went viral, attracting the attention of people all around the world. 21-year-old Thomas Beavis said he was browsing through his photos on his camera when he noticed a ghostly figure of a woman and an older woman in the window. Now, in the early 20th century, the family went bankrupt, and following the death of the last member of the family, it was taken over by the Benedictines, who occupied it until 1935. And in 1937, the Sisters of Providence converted it into a convent and school for young girls wanting to join the order. Now, people say that they were terrified to attend Mass in the chapel given the well-circulated legends of the devil himself visiting the hall. In 1983, the hall was purchased by Michael Devereaux, who opened it as Loftus Hall Motel. Michael died in the hall, and his wife struggled several years trying to run the hotel on her own, until one night she took off without an explanation, leaving everything behind. Loftus Hall then entered another dark period. The property was left vacant, but was occupied illicitly for nearly a decade by people conducting satanic rituals and meetings. Now, back in 2011, it was purchased by its current owners, the Quigley family, who have embarked on an ambitious project of restoration. Today, it is open to the public, who can join a 45-minute guided tour that showcases the history of the hall and its legends. Leaving the hall after one of these tours, one is left with more questions than answers. Fact and fiction have become so closely entwined in the history that it is impossible to determine where history ends and where the legend begins. So, this picture of this woman this young woman and this older woman in the window is trippy. Excuse me. It's freaking trippy. Because you can clearly see two people. I'm going to post that on social media also. Would you ever go investigate Loftus Hall? I mean, would it be on your bucket list for Ireland? I would think so. It was, I would most definitely put it on my bucket list. Not up there, not in the top 10, but maybe in the 20s, give or take. It's considered to be the most haunted house in Ireland, so I'd give it in the 20s, not top 10 nor top 5. I would throw it in the 20s. But the real question is, what did she die of? Was it her mental state because of the supposedly meeting the devil? Was it because she fell in love and she couldn't marry the guy? Or was it because she had a child and nobody was there to help her with the delivery? So that's the good question. Which of those is true and which actually happened? Inquiring minds want to know. And if you do visit Loftus Hall in Ireland, let us know. Is it really haunted? Do you hear things? Do you see things? I'm curious. We're all curious to know. So with that being said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe the podcast. If you have any stories you'd like us to read, go ahead and email them to the email address in the description. I will be going live next Saturday. So if you can jump onto the speaker, SPREAKER, is a live chat, so we can chat it up. I might do a Instagram live and talk about ghost stories. So with that being said, I'd probably have like the doctor involved in that. So we'll have to wait and see about that. But with that being said, happy Sunday. I hope you all enjoyed this story. Don't forget to protect yourselves, stay healthy, social distance. This COVID-19 is getting out of hand again, so you all be safe and take care of each other. Share the love, and I will be seeing you all later. Have a good one, and don't forget to keep it ghosting.